Hello and welcome to or welcome back to Lauren's Legends. Can viruses cause people to act crazy and disappear? Could intruders kidnap a whole village? Could aliens abduct 30 people at once? These are all questions that surround Canada's weirdest mass disappearance, where a whole village goes missing. Let's see if we can figure it out together. This creepy and strange mystery happened way up in the far north of Canada. This terrain is completely foreign to most people. It would seem like a different world to what most of us are used to. The tribe in question thrived in what would normally be a very inhospitable place. They survived off of Lake Anjikuni, giving them their name. Through the summer, they would survive off the gains from the lakes and surrounding rivers, but through the winter, the area would change into a barren winter wonderland. Everything would freeze over, and their main source of food and provisions came from traders. These traders would become very close friends to these tribes, and when they saw them coming, the village would run out and meet them. Everyone would be happy. They would be restocking on beaver and caribou meats and furs. The trappers would be thrilled to get out of the snow and terribly cold temperatures and get a nice warm sleep and a full belly. In the winter of the year 1930, Joe LeBelle, a well-known fur trapper in the area, was trudging through the snow. The wind was on his face, making every step feel harder and heavier. He was so close to his favorite village. He had not seen another human in weeks and was so excited to see his friends. This winter had been a good season for him, and he knew that he was going to put a huge smile on all the 30 people that made up this little village. He was passing through his last set of trees before the tents he knew so well would come into view. He smiled to himself, knowing the howling winds would soon turn into screams of happy children rushing out to hug him. He turned the corner and came to a stop. He stood there, frozen. Something was wrong, very wrong. Nothing moved. There was only the sound of wind. He continued slowly to the 6 tents in the distance, and as he got closer, he called out, but no reply. It was dead silent. Where were all the men, women, and children? The sound of his feet crunching through the snow became deafening to him, as it seemed that even the wind came to a halt. The closer he got, he felt as if he was not welcomed by an unseen force. He pushed through and began investigating. He could see that food still hung over the fire pits and where someone had been working on clothing with the needles still hanging from the cloth. Whatever had happened had taken these people completely by surprise. But what made this even more creepy is even when he was looking through the tents, there was absolutely no sign of a struggle at all. They were just gone. He then saw movement out of the corner of his eye and almost jumped out of his skin. It took a second for his eyes to adjust, but he soon realized he was looking at 2 horribly emaciated huskies. These poor pups looked like they were barely hanging on to life. He quickly made his way over to the poor beast. Upon approaching them, Joe was shocked to find another 7 pups. They were all deceased. They were all tied up and most likely perished due to starvation. As bleak as this is, I think it would be a great time to introduce my 2 4-legged children and make this moment not so dark because I can't handle dead puppies. 1 second. Stop hitting everything. This is Flynn. Hi, buddy. You cannot sit still, can you? This is my 6-month-old crazy little guy that I love dearly. All right, buddy. You wanna go play? And this is my 3-year-old. She's my little Arctic angel, and her name is Zara. Zara, can you look at the camera? She's like, Mom, put me down. I don't like this.
All right, I'll give you lots of treats.
Okay, are we all feeling better? I know I am. Let's get back to the story. Joe decided his first course of action was to feed these pups. He got out some of the meat that he had brought to trade, and the two huskies gobbled it up immediately. These dogs are extremely important because in these villages so far north and isolated, the dogs were revered as family and were vital to their survival as a whole. Even if there was an emergency, these dogs would have been involved in some capacity and would have never been left tied to their posts, left to die. Not quite knowing what to do, he sat for a moment to contemplate. As he glanced to the edge of the village, he immediately got goosebumps on every hair on his body standing up. He slowly stood up and moved closer. In the small graveyard, a human grave had been dug up. Only the stones right above the body had been removed, and there was nothing else disturbed. This meant that it couldn't have been an animal, meaning a human or something even worse had done this. The sun was beginning to set, and the full moon was rising, casting an ominous glow across the land. In the back of his mind, the well-known legends of the land began to overcome him, and his racing thoughts turned into tales of the wood ghost and the wendigos. Terror-stricken, the exhausted and freezing man chose to flee back into the sub-zero temperatures and the blowing snow. This man had spent hundreds of nights alone in the wilderness and was not easily spooked, but this was far too much for even him. For days, he hiked through the elements and made his way to the closest telegram office, and he sent a message to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. The RCMP quickly launched an investigation into the disappearance and determined that the people had been missing for about 8 weeks. They looked and looked, but never found a shred of evidence that could lead to an answer. No one was ever located, and it was as if they had just been going through a normal day and vanished into thin air. So, this story is already creepy and mind-blowing, but wait for it. Several reports have come out that even when the officers were in the village, they witnessed mysterious pulsing lights in the sky over Lake Anjikuni. These lights were apparently not like the northern lights, but were more like a bluish and pulsing and moving in a direct line across the lake. This has, of course, led many people to believe the village may be one of history's largest alien abductions ever. That alone would be terrifying to think about, but what else could immediately snatch up a whole village? Could they all have been infected by something that made them go crazy and leave? That doesn't make sense because the RCMP should have found something left behind, whether that is a shoe or something from the tribe leaving. It also doesn't make sense that someone would have a nefarious motive since there was no sign of any struggles. Through history, there has been a big debate on how true the story is. There are several reputable articles that came out about this story at the time it happened, but this story is understandably too scary to believe for most. What do you think happened? There is so much Native American lore, including evil creatures and monsters. Do you think that these desolate tribes knew more than we do, and they knew what lies behind the trees and the forest? We may never know, but I will not be traveling to a desolate Canadian village alone anytime soon. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.